All right, y'all. We are live on YouTube on the Gut Reaction, but we want to be live on Facebook. It's Atlanta Falcons on SI, and on X, that's at Scout Kennedy, as the Falcons have just swept the New Orleans Saints, winning their fourth game in a row and headed towards Black Friday. Looks like we're good. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Gut Reaction on the Falcons podcast. The Falcons have just swept the New Orleans Saints 19-17 in a game that was, let's say, shall we call ugly? It looked like two teams that had been eliminated around Thanksgiving playing in a Week 18 matchup. The Falcons finish 8-9 and can claim a tie for the NFC South Division crown. And at least this time, as they win down the stretch, they're not just, winning down the stretch after being eliminated. They're not just screwing up their draft position. But are we going to end up seeing a replay of the 2019 season where they finished strong and then stuck with the current regime that included Raheem Morris at the time, Dan Quinn's team, and then, went one more year and then started the season 0-5 the next year? Is that what's coming? Looks like people are starting to come in. I was a little worried. I guess y'all just got your alerts. I was a little worried. I'm like, there's nobody in here. Who am I going to talk to? I'm going to talk to y'all. So I want to say hello to some folks. We'll get into some things. I've got my takeaways from this. We will do a gut reaction, an aftermath tomorrow. This one's going to be a little bit about this game, some gut reactions to the feeling. Then tomorrow, what I'm going to do tomorrow morning, I'm going to do a season grades. And then subscribe and keep those alerts on, because if there's breaking news after we go off at after 9:30 tomorrow morning, I'll go live again. If something happens on Black Monday, I will go live again. So make sure you've got those notifications on. I do want to say hello to some folks. Ricky Duran, first one with the first comment in first, says, yeah, coaching staff keep their jobs. Just hope we get a new special teams coach, but we'll see. Let's go Dirty Birds. I put in writing, and I said, what I say in a podcast, I'll go a little more off the cuff, because you can see context with it. You can see that, hey, this is a different format than when I'm putting something in writing on Sports Illustrated. But I put in writing, if Marquise Williams is still employed by the middle of January by the Atlanta Falcons as special teams coordinator, Arthur Blank should have the franchise just stripped from him. That's just malpractice. And basically, you're admitting to tanking the entire franchise at that point. So, I don't know what's going to happen with Raheem Morris. I don't know what's going to happen with Terry Fontenot. I'm not even sure what's going to happen with Zach Robinson. But, man, Marquise Williams has got to go. Absolutely has got to go on that one. And, yes, while it feels hollow and it feels frustrating, it still feels better to beat the Saints than to not beat the Saints, especially at home. Especially at home. I used to drive back. I'd go home on Sundays. I went to Auburn, which is straight down 85. Then you go down to Mobile, then you cut over to New Orleans. So I'd go home all the time with the Hoodats. So I know how many of them are there, even in a day like this. And they've got a lot to be proud of. That New Orleans team was decimated by injury, playing a rookie quarterback. They've got a Broncos reject at running back in Audric Estime, who couldn't make it, was one of their 4 running backs, and they cut him, signed him off the practice squad. They don't have they're missing their top 3 receivers, and they still, in many aspects, outplayed the Falcons in that game. So good for them, good for Kellen Moore. But you know what? You still have to find a way to beat the team, find a way. Now, that triggers me every time I say it. Now, I promise you. So you'll have to find a way every time you can. Got some supers coming in from some members. Mike Harvey's one of them. He says, the Peter principle with Raheem, he will be fired now or next year an awful head coach. Yeah, the Peter principle is you keep getting promoted. You do a job well, you get promoted. You do a job well, you get promoted. You do a job well, get promoted, until you reach a level where, you know what, I'm not good enough to do this job. Maybe I shouldn't go any higher than that. That's the Peter principle. There's some people, Mike, that'll argue how good a defensive coordinator Raheem Morris actually was. There's arguments to be made that, he was not that great to begin with, but I think he's done a pretty good job as a defensive coordinator through the past, and a lot of it's personnel. We've seen that, y'all. I mean, you can't be completely inept like Jimmy Lake was last year. Then it doesn't matter who you've got. If you're just going to run a base prevent defense and everybody running backwards at the snap, then that matters, but you don't expect people to be that inept with some level of competency. It comes down to players. But will he be the head coach? I'm hoping we find out in the next 24 hours. There seems to be a lot of leaning here recently that he will be back, from Diana Rossini, from Adam Schefter. I'm not sure who else was in there, but there's people that have said that, they kind of expect him back at this point. And the person who is, why am I getting messages now? Stop binging me here. And the person who is, most on the hot seat is Terry Fontenot, actually. Which ironically, Fontenot has had his best couple of off seasons, Kirk Cousins notwithstanding. If I make the comparison to Kyle Pitts, Kyle Pitts was drafted as a young 20-year-old tight end, played his first 3 games. I think he's got a late September or even an October birthday, played his first month in the NFL as a 20-year-old. And now he looks really good. He looks like the guy you were hoping to get. Fontenot is a first-time general manager. At least the first year was pretty dreadful with his draft. Swung big and did some things that didn't work out for him going out of the box. Hasn't had a winning season in 5 years. There's only one other general manager who has been a general manager for at least 5 years out of 18. There's 18 general managers that have been in their position for at least 5 years. There's only one that has had a 5-game streak to start his tenure without a winning season. Only one. You don't usually make it to year 6 if you don't win your first 5 years. Only one. But like Kyle Pitts now looks like a top 5 tight end. Fontenot's arrow has headed in the right direction. I don't know. I can make a better argument for keeping him, but I also know that if I'm going to change the entire culture of this team, which has been comfort in losing, I need to clean house. I absolutely need to clean house. And as Curtis says, and thank you for being a member, Curtis and Mike. He says they barely won this game. A coaching change is needed to happen. Zach Robinson has to go. Yeah, I mean, you look at the comparison. You've got Tyler Shuck out there, who was, I don't remember when he was drafted. I think he was a 2nd-round pick. I don't remember for sure. Looked good at the Senior Bowl, but he is a rookie playing for a team that we all thought was gunning for the number 1 overall pick. They overachieved. The Saints overachieved this year and got some good wins, including wins over the Panthers and Buccaneers. They had a no-name bunch of wide receivers out there. They're decimated with injuries. And they outgained the Falcons today. Let's see here. They outgained the Falcons today, 340 to 208. They damn near doubled them up. Damn near doubled up the Falcons at home in total yards. Costly turnover from a rookie quarterback. That happens. And ironically, it was special teams that probably decided this game with a block punt. And then Zane Gonzalez has just been money. Zane's been really, really good. Sign him into a contract extension. Don't let him hit free agency. Ready to have him come back. 208 yards with your $50 million a year handpicked quarterback out of free agency in Kirk Cousins. With 3 top 10 picks that are under 26 years old, young rising stars in Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. With a free agent running back that's about to be the one of the top, if not the top running back in free agency, with a veteran offensive line that includes a Pro Bowler and a 4-time Pro Bowler in Chris Lindstrom and a former Pro Bowler in Jake Matthews, who I won't say he made him. Chase Young played well, but Chase Young played today like a former number 1 overall pick. Where is that when the games matter, Chase? Come on. He had a good season. He's going to get paid for sure. Mike says, I'm hearing Ian Cunningham is going to be the next GM. Is that the guy from the Bears or the Rams that you've been knocking on my door about, Mike? I don't remember who that is. I went through some of Albert Breer's list of next general manager candidates, but I think what this boils down to, if it ends up being Terry, and this is what I was getting into when I said I haven't put this in writing, I probably won't put it in writing because it's just something I heard through various sources, and it's too formal to put it in writing. But this is a less formal type of setting. What I heard was that Arthur Blank was not happy with the Michael Penix draft pick, had to be talked into it, and basically said, Terry, okay, I'll back you on it, but this is on you. This is your guy. If you do this, it better work. He wasn't happy with his injury history. He wasn't happy that he just spent $100 million on Kirk Cousins. When Kirk Cousins went and asked for a move, Arthur had said, and again, I'm hearing this secondhand, Arthur Blank had told him, sit tight, don't go anywhere. This kid's injured all the time. I want you here. So you can seek a trade, but I'm not eating any of your contract. So I want you here. What this lends me to believe is if there's a power struggle of any kind, if Terry's out, that's why. It was the Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix thing. That's why. Plus 5 straight losing seasons. Winning cures all. We know that. Which leads me then to believe, would Arthur Blank bring Kirk Cousins back? Would Kirk Cousins restructure a deal to push more money into the future? Which would be moronic. God, that would be so bad to do something like that. I certainly hope not. I hope that doesn't happen. Mike, thank you for doubling up on the super chats. Want to say hello to some more folks that have come in. John, thanks for being a member. He says, what about CJ Henderson opposite AJ Terrell? He did some good things. CJ was off the practice squad. CJ did do some good things, and he'll be a free agent. Hell, he was a free agent during the season. That's why they were able to get him on the practice squad. So I would have him back into camp. I want more competition at that spot. The Falcons have been woefully. They have not spent enough. They have not put enough resources towards the defensive backfield. The last day 1 or day 2 pick, that's first, second, or third round, the last day 1 or day 2 pick that they took at cornerback was AJ Terrell. What was that, 2020? So that's 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. That's 5 drafts. It shows the depth and talent back there isn't so good. D. Alford, I put him in my keys to the game. In my gut reaction that I just did, my takeaways that I just posted before we came live. It was a redemption season for him. Playing in that prevent defense puts D. Alford in a lot of space. And what do defenders not like? They don't like space. They want to keep things tight. They want to keep things in front of him. Jeff Ulbrich recognized this, and D. Alford played a lot closer to the line of scrimmage. He had a much better season. But you see the physical limitations, other than the size, because he's not very big, why you don't want to put him in space when he gets a gimme pick 6. And I may have put that in pick 6. It wasn't a pick 6. He didn't return it all the way. I need to edit that out of my my article. Gimme pick 6. It should have been a pick 6. And he's run down by Audric Estime, 230 pounds, 4'6'8", 5th round running back practice squad, and Tyler Shuck was going to get him too. That just goes to show you he doesn't have the elite tools that you need to be able to play in space in this league as a cornerback. So D. Alford had a really good season, but he is who he is, and he should be a 4th guy on a team out there. Mike Hughes at best should be a 3rd. The Falcons need a number 2 out there, and they need some depth at cornerback position. Could CJ Henderson be a 5th guy? Wouldn't be bad, but they need a number 2. They absolutely need a number 2 because then everybody else moves down a notch. Mike Hughes isn't a great number 2, but he's not a bad number 3. Billy Bowman coming back will help. But hell, he only played 6 games this year. You know, he was banged up. So, Corey says, amazing what a competent QB and kicker can do for you. Yeah, Kirk didn't have a great game. I mean, the overall numbers were, pretty poor. 18 of 32 with a touchdown and interception. That interception was just a great play. Those guys are paid to make plays too. And he made a great play. But it was Darnell Mooney has been a waste of space this year. And I'll be looking forward to him being released and off of his contract. Falcons save about $7 or $8 million moving on from him. And it might be more than that. I might be getting confused with somebody else. But he's gone. He would have been better off out there playing with 10 guys at times. Then at least you're not throwing it to somebody who isn't going to catch it. You can at least throw it to somebody that might catch it. So, but again, we've seen through the last year and a half how having no kicking game changes the way you have to call a game. You get Zane within 55 yards, and it's been good for the most part when the blocking holds up. They don't block it. But yeah, not overall, not a very good game today. As Maurice, thanks for being a member, Maurice. All we had to do is beat the Jets. Yeah, it's not just that you didn't make the playoffs again. It's that it's even not that you finished 8-9. It's that you were eliminated from the playoffs after Thanksgiving with a month to go in the season in a division that was won with an 8-9 record. That's horrendous. The Buccaneers did not win it. The Carolina Panthers won it for the first time since, I think, 2015. They didn't win it, but if the Bucks tied for the lead, and if they had won it at 8-9, they'd have won 5 straight at like 1 or 2 games over 500. That's insane. That's insane. So when people talk about the opportunity to grab this division by the throat, this is what they're talking about, the midness of the NFC South. And we called it yesterday. You can look on my X account. I said the most NFC South thing in the world would be for the Bucks to beat the Carolina Panthers, the Falcons to beat the Saints, and the Panthers back into the playoffs at 8-9. That's the NFC South as it currently stands for you right now. And it's terrible. Meaningless win in the grand scheme. Now keep your incompetent staff that'll waste the talent we have. Yeah, it's so much different to do this from the outside than when you build these relationships to be ruthless with the people in your building that you're working with every day. You want them to succeed. You want to find every reason in the world. I've made this decision. I've paid them millions of dollars. From the outside, sometimes it's easier to just be emotionally detached and say, that wasn't good enough. You're gone. And honestly, Evan, that might be one of the reasons they brought in Sportsology, the headhunting group for, the person for NFL personnel. Arthur Blank needed an outside voice to come in and tell him this is garbage. Your culture is losing. You're losers. And if you keep it the way it is, you're going to continue to be losers. Maybe that's what he needed. We'll find out. That's what I said. One of the best things about the end of this season, January 4th, 2026, we're going to have some answers in about the next 24 hours, if not sooner. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't Arthur Smith fired Sunday night after being embarrassed by the Saints? I think that news came out Sunday night. I don't expect that to happen with this one. That one was a done deal. This one's not quite as cut and dry for anybody, except for Marquise Williams, who should have been fired last season. So something's really going on if Marquise Williams keeps his job on that one. Yeah, and Kirk, it was quiet. I don't know how much I got interrupted by about a zillion texts from my friend telling me how bad Chris Myers was calling this game, and Stink, Mark Schlereth, he actually does a pretty good job. But Chris Myers was pretty bad. It's like he didn't see the game and then he didn't know the rules. Other than that, he was money. But I don't remember them talking too much about Kirk Cousins. He didn't get a designation like doubtful, questionable, but he was sick. He wasn't the only one. And the team looked like it. It just did. And, going back to who stays and who goes, the offensive coordinator script plays. They run those first 10 plays several times in practice, so you get a good feeling for what they are. Teams that script plays generally have a higher scoring percentage on their first drive with those scripted plays than without them. The Falcons have now gone 12 straight games without scoring a point on their opening drive. It seems the longer you give Zach Robinson to plan, the worse he is. Oh, that's not good, is it? There's another indication. So typically the shelf life for offensive coordinators is 2 years. Either they're good and they're promoted, they get a head coaching job somewhere, college ranks, wherever, or they're bad and they're fired and they get replaced. 2 years is up for Zach Robinson. He was bad. He was bad. This was a terrible. And remember, other than Caleb McGarry and let's say Ray McLeod, wide receiver 3, This was the offense that the Falcons were supposed to have when they gave Kirk Cousins 2 years of guaranteed money. Next year was supposed to be the year of Michael Penix. He had offensive line. The only ones that are missing were Caleb McGarry and maybe Ray McLeod, if you want to count him. They had Bijan. They had Darnell Mooney. They had Kirk Cousins. They had Kyle Pitts. 208 yards of offense. And let's see. And as usual, the third down efficiency, 4 for 14. They were awful on third downs all season long, awful on first drives. The special teams were a disaster. And that was where the season went up in smoke. If you're even league average on third downs, if you're even league average on special teams, where there's not that big a difference. It's not hard. There's not that big a difference between first and normally what's last in special teams across the NFL. It's marginal. Well, we saw special teams lose a game for the Saints today. We've seen them lose 2 or 3 for the Falcons this year. For sure. So it was ugly out there. Let's go through some more of the let's go through some more of the comments. Jay, good to see you there. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Says, I think we can do better than Raheem. I think a lot of people think that as well. But the question you have to ask yourself, and this is how I posted it when they did the general manager, the possibles from Albert Breer on Sports Illustrated, was just firing somebody is part of the equation. Who are you going to replace them with? You need to have somebody in mind. You need to have a realistic chance at that. Now, I don't think it would be that difficult to upgrade over Raheem Morris. I might be biased from watching this bad team and this underachieving team for 2 years and the clock management and the 8 seconds left and you're one play away from field goal range before halftime and you take a delay a game. I mean, when we talk about losing games in the margin, the Falcons have been in 44, now 45 one-score games, 22, 23, 24, 25 in the last 4 seasons, 45 games. They're close games. Those are the margins. Those are 3 points you could have had that you just pissed away through poor execution, poor coaching. How often do we see that? This is the NFL. You win in the margins. You win on third down. You win in the red zone. You win on special teams. You win in clock management. The Falcons lose on all of those. They lose on all of them. I don't think it's a high bar to do better than what Raheem Morris has done. Pamela, good to see you. I hope you are doing well. There's lots of missed opportunities to win the division, disappointed in the season. And that's part of the frustrating you're watching. You're watching the Rams, beat the Rams. They played really well against the Rams. And then a special teams gaffe, makes the game a lot closer than it should have been. You're watching and win these teams, and then you're watching a mediocre Carolina Panthers team win the division. You're watching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers spit the bit and lose, 7 in a row. And frankly, when people talk about the Jets, let's look at this. People say, oh, only if you'd won the Jets game. Well, it's not just the Jets. So if I click on the Jets are 3-13. Their only win in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. They're 1-6. Their only win in the last 7 games was the Atlanta Falcons. Worse than that, though. How about the Colts? They got drubbed by the Colts. Did the Colts end up winning that game? No, they got beat. The Texans are hot, man. The Colts finished the season. Let's see. They finished the season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1-8. The Colts finished the season 1-8. Anybody want to guess? I'll give you one guess who that one win was against in their last 9 games. They had their chances, and they're so ill-prepared through too many games, through blowouts, playing down to your competition, special teams gaffes, that, again, they're sitting at home watching other teams go to the dance. And frankly, this is a dangerous team in the playoffs because we've seen how good they can be when they want to play well. But they're not going to do it consistently. They're not going to do it on a week-to-week basis in order to string 3 wins together against playoff quality teams to win, because they're not coached well enough, Pamela. And as you see, it's frustrating. And Evan says, but hey, at least James Pierce Jr. will win Defensive Rookie of the Year. No, he won't. he got off to too slow a start. It's a Schlesinger kid. It was given to him around Halloween. So James Pierce Jr. will probably come in second. And frankly, going into the game, as I'm writing up, I'm going to write up an article like team MVPs, best move, worst move, et cetera, et cetera. Rookie of the year, I'm seriously considering Xavier Watts. He played every snap this year for 17 games. I don't remember him missing one. He might have, but basically he was a starter from week 1 is what I'm trying to say. And his impact on a down-to-down basis was probably even more so than James Pierce Jr., who really turned it on the back half of the season. But still, that might be just trying to, pick nits and going against the grain. A rookie gets 10.5 sacks, 10 of them in the last, 8 weeks? Yeah, he's a Falcons rookie of the year. But there's an argument to be made for Xavier Watts. There's definitely an argument to be made. But I'll probably still pick James Pierce Jr. Nobody else has more than 5, other than Jalen Walker with 5.5. Nick Scourton for the Carolina Panthers, who's in the clubhouse because they played yesterday with 17 games, has 5 sacks. That's the next closest. Jalen Walker, 5.5. James Pierce Jr., 10.5. Now, when the draft rolls around and everybody talks about the Falcons, trading their number 26, was it? Or no, they got number 26. They traded a future first. It's going to end up with the win. It's probably going to end up around 14 or 15. So the Rams moved up and increased their value. Would you trade number 15 for James Pierce Jr. right now? Hell no. No way. Someone called right now. The Rams said, hey, you want your pick back? We'll take James Pierce Jr. Click. I mean, come on. That was, and people, it bugs me a little bit that when people say they want to pick a winner of this trade. Well, both teams can win. There doesn't have to be a winner and a loser for the trade. A good trade helps both teams. Both teams are expecting to get better when they make the trade. It's not, I'm trying to swindle you. They might have needed something. They didn't see who they liked, but what did happen, without question in my mind, the Falcons don't regret making that trade. No way. And you could not get the number 15 back from the Rams. The Rams, they would, who's their GM? Les Snead. They'd hang up on him. They would hang up on him. They said, hey, you can get your pick back. You just sent us James Pierce Jr. Huh, no way. No way in hell. So he might not win it, but James Pierce Jr. should at least finish second. He'll be on every all-rookie team, and him and Watts will be on every all-rookie team there is. Corey, let me see here. Corey says, can you speculate on a rework Cousins deal for 2026 only? Rather add money instead of having dead money. Cousins can't expect more than 10 next year. I think he probably can. I think somebody would bring him as a bridge starter for 15 at least. But how it works is he is due. Let me look up his contract real quick and I'll run through this for you. So he's got 2 years left on his deal at basically the balance of the contract, which is $80 million, right? So his money next year, his base salary is scheduled to be $35 million. Okay. So, and his dead money is $35 million. So if you cut him, you save $22.5 million and you can spread that $35 million across 2 years. A reworked deal means he's going to want to see $35 million in his bank account at some point. How you rework that deal is you turn the $35 million in base salary that he is owed and you turn it into a signing bonus. And you give him $35 million in cash on a 3-year extension. And then you pay him a base salary of $1.5 million. That knocks his cap hit down to about $15 million. I can't do this on the fly, but it should knock it down to about $12 million plus $1 million would be about $13 million. His cap hit, instead of being $57 million, would be about $13 million, not including but then you end up taking a bigger dead cap hit in 2 years instead of the 35 because you added more money onto it. So that's how you end up doing that. And you could knock it down if you thought you had a chance to make a playoff run in 2026 with a 38-year-old Kirk Cousins and you wanted to take an even bigger salary cap hit in 2027 and 2028. That's insanity to me. That's absolutely insanity to me. Because of what you owe him, you're not really going to knock his money down. You're better off just taking the dead cap hit. He's going to count that much against your salary cap one way or another. And you don't want it to be more, and you don't want it to last longer. You need to get out from him. He's 38 next season, and he's coming off a game. Yeah, they won, but he's coming off a game. He was competent. So is Davis Mills for the Houston Texans. There's competency out there without having to keep shoveling money at Kirk Cousins on this one. Rio, good to see you, my friend. He says, well, I don't believe in end of season momentum. I think we're going to run it back. Makes for a cleaner sweep if it doesn't work out, but we might benefit from one more year. But we do so with Michael Penix. So I guess that's what you're thinking by MP. But what you're saying is they finished 8-9. They finished with 4 wins in a row. Everybody's coming back for one more go at it. Then what, Rio? What if they're 8-9 again and finish like this again? Then what? And I don't think you're not necessarily saying everybody on here, but I think you mean like the key components: Terry Fontenot, Raheem Morris, Jeff Ulbrich, hopefully. And I don't know where you feel on Zach Robinson, but if you're bringing Zach Robinson back, if you don't bring him back, who are you going to get when you know that Raheem Morris is on the hot seat? You can't get a young up and comer, because if he's a young up and comer, he's either in a good situation right now where he's had success and is having success, or he's going to get another head coaching job somewhere else. So it doesn't really work. He's not going to be able to get a proven offensive upgrade over Zach Robinson. So you're bringing Zach Robinson back too. I don't like it. I don't like it, man. So that's the problem I have, is if Raheem Morris is back, then who's going to be your offensive coordinator? I don't feel like you can get anybody worth a damn as your offensive coordinator if Raheem Morris is back. And I don't want Zach Robinson back. That's the conundrum for me. Because, again, Raheem Morris has his problems with clock management, timeouts, challenges, all that type of stuff that we've seen. But what does he actually do? In games that it's benefit. He's not calling the plays on offense. He's not calling the plays on defense. He's not calling the special teams plays. So he's dependent on those coordinators to do those things. And I don't know. On offense, I don't see a lot of ways it gets better on offense next year if Raheem Morris is your head coach. I think that's where I run into. What do y'all think about that? I'm interested in what you have to say about that. Let's see. And Evan says, yeah, with the Panthers, the Falcons were tied with the Panthers. Evan says the Falcons and Jets are the only teams not to make the playoffs in a decade. Hasn't quite been a decade for the Falcons, but they were tied with the Panthers for 8 straight, and the Panthers made it this year. So now they're all by themselves in 31st place. The longest streaks, they're all by themselves now. But in second to last. The Jets, they're like 15 or 16 years. It's been a long time since the Jets. Andy says the offense is still loathsome. It was really bad this year. They regressed in such a big way. If I look at the numbers in scoring, and total yards and EPA and all that type of stuff, offense, total yards, the Falcons were mid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th coming into today. And then they might move down a little bit. They have they're 10 yards up on dropping to the Cincinnati Bengals, 6 spots below. So if they drop 10 yards, they could drop into the bottom half. And then in points per game and scoring, they scored 19 today, so they'll move down. They were at 20.9. They scored 19 today, so they'll finish about 20.8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 32 minus 9 is what? 23 plus 1, 24th in scoring. And it looks like the Commanders will probably jump them. And so they'll probably be 25th in scoring. And, one of those scores was a gift from the special teams, ironically, on that one. So the offense was dreadful this year, and that's my concern. If Raheem Morris is back, how are they going to fix the offense? Is it just going to be through improvement from Zach Robinson? Again, who are you going to get on the offensive side of the ball to coach this offense if Raheem Morris is on the hot seat? That is the big problem for me. Sam, great to see you. Says Zach Robinson didn't do himself any favors today. Did Oklahoma State hire a head coach yet? I don't even know. I feel like they should have. Brian, Raheem Morris wins another meaningless game. The Falcons have moved. We just mentioned it's been 8 years since they made the playoffs. So 8 seasons, so 9 years since they made the playoffs. 8 seasons. In those 8 years, after being mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, the Falcons are now 13-4. Man, this team is money at stat padding when it doesn't matter. And the thing is it does matter. What could some of those draft picks have been if they had not won some of these games and built on, instead of trying to save your jobs that you're going to lose anyway? What if they just lost? 13-4. That's 4-13. Maybe they're picking, 5 spots higher in every draft. It's nuts. 13-4. Not only are they losing, they can't even win when they lose. They can't lose to win. It's frustrating. Courtney coming in. Good to see you, Courtney. Says offensive line has to be the biggest need this offseason, whether it's free agent or draft. I see good and bad with the offensive line. Part of it is getting healthy. Again, you had a second string offensive guard playing right tackle this year. He played all year. He played all 17 games. Eli Wilkinson, aside from 2 false starts every game, played okay. He played okay. I don't think Matt Bergeron had a great year this year. I thought Ryan Newsel was okay. I thought he was adequate. Lindstrom's Lindstrom, but you really do. I agree with you on this. You've really got to start thinking about offensive tackle, right and left. Jake Matthews has the Iron Man strength and it's wearing on him a little bit. He's not as good as he was several years ago at left tackle. Caleb McGarry, we were a little scared about at right tackle anyway, before the knee injury. And Storm was just a guy. He was a guy. So yes, offensive line is a big need. The biggest need for this team. If I'm watching this game, let's take quarterback off the table because the Falcons aren't going to go get a big time investment in a quarterback this offseason. It's going to be Michael Penix Jr. next year. Kirk Cousins, good Lord. I can't believe I'm even thinking that, but it'll be Michael Penix Jr. next year. And then if that doesn't work out, then 2027, they'll be back in the quarterback market. They need to spend some money on some offensive tackle. But if I'm watching this game, if I'm watching the last 5 games, the biggest need for me is still wide receiver. The biggest need on this team for me is wide receiver. You go from Drake London, who was out basically 5 weeks, and you go from him. Darnell Mooney's gone. He will not be back. He wasn't even here this year. David Sills is your next guy. David Sills has like 6 catches in 5 years coming into this season. Where did he finish today? As far as he probably played majority of the snaps again today, and he had 1 catch for 11 yards. Darnell Mooney was targeted 7 times, had 3 catches for 20 yards. I'm telling you, you'd be better off playing with 10. He's not blocking anybody, and he's not catching the ball and moving the chains. So, and I don't care. It's like, well, it's not his fault because of blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I don't care whose fault it is. If it's not working, it's not working. And guess what? It's not working. He's gone. He's going to be making too much money to try and figure it out next year on the fly. No way. He's toast. So you've got to have another wide receiver. And after that, for me, it becomes, you got to have 2 wide receivers. After that, for me, it becomes cornerback. Again, the lack of investment at cornerback really shows. You have to play so much high risk, high reward defense, because if you typically don't get now, this was a lot better against the Rams. I'll tell you that coverage has been pretty good, but I still want more. I want more help in the secondary. And then, yes, you have to go. You absolutely have to look at draft spend another day 3 pick, trade down if you need to. I know that's heresy. Who would ever trade down, get another pick, take a couple chances, and see if a guy will work out on that? We have found several day 3 guys through the years that have become starters in this league at the Senior Bowl. They found them. We agreed with them. We're like, oh, I like that guy. And then he lasts till day 3 and becomes a starter. Falcons need to get lucky on something like that for sure. Let me scroll down towards the bottom. I'm still up at 30 minutes ago on some of these on some of these comments. So let me scroll down to more live. James Bostwick, our most recent comment, he says, Raheem Morris stays. It's a repeat of Dan Quinn. Same owner. Same Raheem Morris was on that team as well. So Calder says, and thank you for being a member, Calder. It means a lot. It helps a lot. He says, we had Nick Nash, a standout wide receiver at San Jose State, on the practice squad this season. And he couldn't beat out David Sills or Darnell Mooney or Casey Washington. I'm not sure if Dylan Drummond got moved up ahead of him. There seem to be several good number 4 wide receivers, but the 2 and 3 spot seriously need an upgrade on that. Blue Jacket says there's just no way David Sills can be better than Nash. Yeah, you can't. You're as far as Jake Matthews goes, you're tied to him financially for one more season, 2026. Let me look at his numbers again real quick. But they did a restructure on him and made it so that you were financially tied to him for 2025 and 2026. And yeah, so his cap hit is 27 against a dead cap of 37. So you're underwater on his contract. And you didn't have to be. You were close. You were almost out from under it. But I mean, it's a lot of money. But you knocked him down to 13.3 this year for his cap hit and didn't take advantage of it. He's expensive again next year. And he'll be 35 in 2027 when his cap hit goes to 23 with a dead cap of 10. Do not restructure that contract in 2026. Yes, you could save some more money. And you'll end up like the Saints pushing a $50 million cap hit on a 40-year-old player. Do not let him take his $27 million cap hit. Yes, you could save some money there by restructuring. Do not do it. Do not. As Blue Jacket says, need a number 2, number 3 wide receiver with speed. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. For me, it's the number 1 need on this team. And I expect it to be addressed. I expect 2 new wide receivers in, either both through free agency or 1 in free agency and 1 in draft. It needs to happen. The Falcons will have their 2nd round pick. You can get a good wide receiver in the 2nd round. Just a few of them on the top of my head since we've been doing this together for 5 years, y'all. George Pickens was that guy. I think Christian Watson ended up in the 2nd round, guy we love from the Senior Bowl. Alec Pierce, loved him. He's about to get paid. Loved him. He was, I think he was Desmond Ritter's wide receiver. Loved him at Senior Bowl. They're out there. Those are 3 off the top of my head, and that's, like I said, just off the top of my head. Let's see. Let me scroll down here. ECU Falcon, good to see you. Says, hey, Scott, thanks again for all you've done this season. Hopefully this good run to end the season carries over to next season. Yeah. And unfortunately, and I used this line before, I've repeated myself with just about everything, at least once, was it feels like not Christmas holidays here. It feels like Groundhog Day. Another promising season goes up in smoke, and there's more questions than answers. Who's going to be quarterback? Who's going to be coach? Who's going to be general manager? Who's going to be right tackle? What about wide receivers 1 and 2? What happens with Caden Ellis? Are you going to trade Jesse Bates this offseason? There's a place where you can save a little money and maybe pick up some draft picks. Is Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates finished pretty strong, and he did so in front of a national audience. If I can get a 3rd round pick and save $15 million on Jesse Bates next year, I'm seriously considering it. I don't think this is, a contender next year. So why not build for, especially if you go for a new coach. If you go for a new coach, then lay out a free agency for a year and get some comp backs for the guys that are going to leave in free agency. If you do not sign corresponding free agents and Caden Ellis leaves, if David Onyemata signs, Who else? If Kyle Pitts. I'm tagging Kyle Pitts. I'm absolutely tagging Kyle Pitts, and then we'll talk about trade. Tag first. That's the next order of business. You franchise tag Kyle Pitts. Tyler Algier. Those are guys that could end up being comp picks, and I could end up getting 3 or 4 more picks for 2027 and really start to build for something then. All good ways to do it. There's, again, we're right back in this. It feels like Groundhog Day. Like I just rerun the show we did 3 years ago. I don't know what they're going to do. AJ says, on tomorrow's show, I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on Alex Hallaby from the Eagles and possibly an early mock. We might go through an early mock. I don't know that much about Alex Hallaby, but if he's learned from, I forgot the general manager's name, Howie. Is build with athletes, move on from there. If you're not strong in the trenches, it doesn't matter how many shiny toys you have. You can't get them the ball, and on defense, you can't cover long enough against everybody else's shiny new toys in this league if you are getting beat in the trenches. So that would be good for me. Tomorrow we'll also go through season grades, and then we will see about any breaking news. So we might do 2 podcasts tomorrow if there's any breaking news. Corey says the Saints got lucky with Carr retiring. Luck doesn't even start to talk about what happened with him. I mean, they just wiped about $50 million off their books. My God. That's some voodoo down there. People say, oh, they'll get it to them some other ways. Well, that's against the rules. And if they can do it and get away with it, hey, good for them. And Alex Pierce is Alec Pierce is going to be paid big time. Any free agent wide receivers? G. William Gaming. Let's hit this tomorrow and or Wednesday. We'll go back through it. We did a show like that a couple of weeks ago. Problem is, a lot of those guys won't hit free agency, but we'll look at guys that are pending. Darius Allen, good to see you. Looks like you've been putting in the work. He says, so we all saw Drake London get livid. Is he here next season? He will be. Well, I've said this before. I want to be clear on this. The next order of business should be extending Drake London. Chris Lindstrom was a Pro Bowler, All Pro. He was extended between his 4th and 5th season in March. In March, they did it, right around free agency, and they did it before the draft. Drake London is one of your most valuable trade pieces. He's one of your most valuable players, period. He's 24 years old and plays like a Pro Bowler, even though he hasn't ever made a Pro Bowl. Would have this year if not for injuries. They're using him like a running back, and he's getting hospital balls thrown to him on slants over the middle. So if you get any indication, you make him a huge offer, and I said that Garrett Wilson's 4-year, $130 million, 3 years, 90 guaranteed, that's 30 a season, will be a good baseline for Drake London. 30 a year, 3 years guaranteed, $90 million. That's a good baseline for him. If he doesn't show any indication of being willing to sign an extension, a new contract with the Falcons before this draft, they need to trade him. If you cannot lose him, you cannot lose him for nothing. You would get at least a 1st-round pick in this draft and change. You would get lots back. You need the 1st-round pick this year. Now, you could try and wait and keep working, and then in August and then make a trade for 2027. But he's under contract for 2026. You have that done. That's his 5th-year option. If he does not show an indication of willing to sign, then you need to trade him. But you've got to know that. That's what the general manager for the Atlanta Falcons has to work on signing him. They cannot let him get to August without a contract extension. They can't do it. Cannot. Because I think he is a pillar of this franchise. So I'm not advocating by any stretch of the imagination to trade Drake London. I am saying if he doesn't want to be here, you can't let him walk for nothing. You can't. You cannot. Not an asset like him. You see how valuable wide receivers are. You cannot. Is he here next season? Yes. Arthur Blank will dig deep into the checkbook and he will pay the guys he wants to keep. Very rarely has Arthur Blank wanted to keep a guy and seen him leave. It hasn't happened very often. Not like Falcons fans my age we all knew the good players were going to be gone. The Smiths weren't going to pay him. Doesn't happen now. Did the defense get to 60 sacks? I don't think so. I think they were at 57 or 58. Still a new record, setting records. Hell, that was on the that was, I think, put on the title of the show was setting records. Record set. Despite being held to his lowest output of the season this year, what do you have? 42 total yards. Bijan Robinson moved up to 12th all-time single season history of the NFL in yards from scrimmage. And I'm going to come back to that one because it's kind of amazing, actually. And then the Falcons set a new franchise record for sacks. I think they had 57 or 58. The previous record was 55. In a season where they have the record holder for yards from scrimmage and sacks, that's offense and defense, this team was eliminated from playoff contention the first week of December. That's sickening. That really is sickening. There's some, for how good the sum of this stuff is, it just shows you how bad other aspects of this team were. And that's just awful. It really is. 8-9 wins this division, and you're out of it in the beginning of December. Somebody's losing their jobs over that, I promise you. Going back to Bijan Robinson. Oh, but he had 17 games. I wanted to hear because he had a chance to move up to number 2 today, but he got shut down. The Saints shut him down. And argument was, the argument against that was, well, he did it in 17 games. I'm like, yeah, but think how much the game has changed in the last 10 years for running backs. Running backs don't get 25 carries a game anymore. The leader this year is Jonathan Taylor, I think, and he's at like 19 and change carries per game. The leader last year was Saquon Barkley at 21.2, 21.3, and he was the only running back over 20 last year. So Bijan Robinson was sitting after 16 games was at 16th in his total yards from scrimmage. And in a 16-game season, only 3 times was there a player who had less touches that was in the top 45 of yards from scrimmage of all time in a single season. It was the same player every time. It was Marshall Faulk, and Marshall Faulk. Marshall Faulk is number 2 on the list. And he had 310 touches. So he finished almost 2,400 yards on 310 touches. Bijan had 2,255 coming into the game on 348 touches. So 38 more touches than what Marshall Faulk did in 1999 on that Greatest Show on Turf. Just unbelievable. 310 touches in 16 games, and he's number 2 all time in yards from scrimmage. That is arguably he was a 1,000-yard receiver and a 1,000-yard rusher. That's arguably the best season by a running back in NFL history. Were some of the records that got broken on there. So Bijan moved up to 12th all time, even with just as few yards as he did have today. He moved up to 12th all time today. Lord, let's keep Nate Ollie. Did a great job on the defensive line, and we didn't mention, we should, that it looks like Brandon Dorlus avoided a serious injury. Now, being out for a month with a hamstring is no joke. But he's got plenty of time to rest and rehab and not try and rush that because, frankly, I don't trust the Falcons medical staff to not have a player get re-injured in the middle of the season. So that's another. And we had a rookie with 10.5 sacks, talking about all the good things that this team did and still finish 8-9, was eliminated the week after Thanksgiving. It's unbelievable. It really is. It's just Falcons. It's Falcons for you. So let me see, as we're talking, see if there are any other points I wanted to hit, because I'm just about to get out of here. We're coming up on an hour. Let's see, just, going through my, my takeaways from the game. And Corey says, I thought Dorlus tore something, may have just scared him. I talked about it right after the game. You can hear something pop in that area. I did with my MCL, but it didn't tear. And it was about 4 weeks that I was limping around. So I was hoping for good things that, I didn't see them do a stability test or a mobility test on his knee, but it was good things for him. And frankly, I don't want him in the hands of the same medical staff during the offseason. New record for sacks. The streaks, we talked about that. The poor streak, 12 consecutive games without scoring a point on your opening drive. Special teams. How ironic was it, that after special teams being so bad all season, to beat the Saints with some special teams voodoo on that one. We talked about Bijan. Went in on the class of 2025. That was one of them. If this is General Manager Terry Fontenot's swan song, 2025 was money. It was a good draft. The trade up worked. Even the trade up to get Xavier Watts, it worked. Jalen Walker had a solid rookie season, and he's almost an afterthought right now. Battled injuries a little bit. Need to get Billy Bowman back. But those three would make this draft a hit. Just Jalen, James Pierce Jr., and Xavier Watts. You got 3+ starters, it looks like, coming out of this. And Sam says we should still bring in competition for Zane Gonzalez. Absolutely. There's no guarantee he's going to re-sign, and Lenny Kruger could be that guy too, but he's going to be a free agent as well because he's on the practice squad. Lenny Krieg, the German kicker, he'll be a free agent as well too, but I would think he'd want to stick with Atlanta. And then finally, one of the others was, let's get down to business on Drake London, pay the man. Talked about D. Alford also, a redemption season for him. He should get a raise. He signed a non-guaranteed contract in the preseason. And, people said, why is he even back? Because he was cheap. It's non-guaranteed money. If he doesn't earn it, they will cut him, you would think. But he is an instinctive relative to what it takes to play corner in the NFL. He is not physically gifted, but he is an instinctive playmaker who is basically playing a safety spot. And when he's allowed to read and react close to the line of scrimmage and make plays, he's really good. He's kind of what I thought Clark Phillips was going to be for this team. D. Alford is that guy. So the Bryce is wrong, finishing up saying, hey, Scott, glad we got to end the year sweeping the Saints. Yeah, it's definitely better to, you don't want to lose. It's the Saints, I know Cam Jordan is just playing a role and, but I'm tired of it. I know him and Matt Ryan are friends and he's just playing, he's a heel in the WWE. He's playing his role, but enough, you still want the heel to lose on that note. So happy to send them home in 4th place. And I think that was about it, other than, hey, listen, we're going to have some answers. We're going to get some answers here. Black Monday is tomorrow. We'll get some answers. I don't know what to expect. If it was me, I wouldn't let 4 games sway my decision any more than I would a hitter going on a hot streak when I'm 25 games under 500 and out of first place and the pressure's off. I want to know how do these guys perform when it matters? They were horrible. They were 4-9 and arguably the biggest underachieving team in the NFL. That's how they performed when it matters. Again, it's 2 years in a row, y'all. Let's not forget that. So if it was me, it'd be a clean sweep. I'd nuke the whole place for the most part. And I would re-interview a few guys, try and bring them back. There were a couple guys I wanted to bring back. Nate Ollie, Albrecht, Dwayne Ledford, offensive line coach. We talked about him. Jerry Gray. I would have my new head of football operations, Matt Ryan, come in and they could interview guys. And whoever I picked for my new general manager, my new head coach, they could interview guys. And I wouldn't necessarily turn them loose, but whoever comes in needs to have the ability to not be saddled with previous staff, previous administration, previous losers. They need to be able to make that choice on their own. Otherwise, you're going to keep getting the same of the same. Mike, thank you so much for being a member and coming in with the supers. Same with you, Curtis. Corey, absolutely a big helper, and Rio. And here's one I missed from CBRN10. So I'll get that one before we go. Sorry about that. Rio, thanks for coming in yellow on that one. CBR says, any shred of hope that they fire Raheem and Terry? Yes, there is. I don't think it's nearly as cut and dry as it was after the 3rd season of Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith was fired after losing before the bye week against Arizona and getting blown out by the Saints was just a final kiss off goodbye. But any one of the things could happen. Raheem and Terry could both be gone. They could both stay. One or the other could be gone. We just don't know. And that's part of the problem with such an up and down, wishy-washy, Heckle and Jekyll, mostly bad franchise, is there aren't any real clear options of what Arthur Blank is going to do. If it was me, I'd be a little bit more ruthless and I'd clean house. I wouldn't saddle the old coach with a new GM or the new coach with the old GM. We'd start fresh. I'd hire a president of football operations, and if his name was Matt Ryan, fine. I would work with him, let him, listen to him to hire a new general manager who then helps hire them, and then those two together would hire the new coach. And I would get all of it done by February 1st. So we will see. Make sure you've got those notifications on. We will be going live together, y'all, tomorrow morning at 8:30. So we'll kind of look back over and I'll go through some season grades. We might do that mock draft. And as always, super chats will dictate what I'm talking about, y'all. Come on. And then, like I said, make sure you have your notifications on, because if something happens, it might not happen by 9:30, but it might happen by 2:30 tomorrow afternoon, and we'll go live again, I promise you. So thanks for being here, everybody. Falcons finish 8-9, a share of the NFC South crown, and a three-way mid-off with the Buccaneers and Panthers. The Panthers can say thank you. And frankly, I was ready for some change. The Buccaneers didn't need to win it again, barely scraping by 500 in the last 4 seasons. So on that note, y'all, I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you for being members and my Super Chat superstars. We'll see y'all tomorrow.